Hello, this is the full version of my talk from Java 1 about Spring internals and the most powerful debugging tool in the world for Java developers, which is IntelliJ IDEA Spring Debugger. But before diving under the hood of the Spring, let me explain why my talk, which is very technical and AI agnostic, I'm not going to talk about AI, is still very relevant and important for Java developers in 2026, in my opinion. The world have changed, we have agents everywhere, and before writing this talk, I asked the question, what should a developer be in the era of LLMs? And when I'm saying developer, I'm not talking about vibe coders, I'm talking about engineers. But even engineers don't write code anymore. Almost there. Agents write the code, we barely read it, we only complain about the constantly growing number of pull requests. And the only thing which is left for the real engineer is understanding when something went wrong and fixing what AI couldn't. And one of the options how we can do that is by debugging the application. And debugging requires an expertise. And when I'm saying expertise, I'm not talking only about the project domain. I'm talking about the technologies and the frameworks which used in your project. And because of that, the skill of deep understanding the technologies is today in the era of LLMs even more than it was before. Because of that, my talk is a combination of two things. From the one hand, I want to speak about the most popular framework in Java world, which is Spring Framework and Spring Boot. I'm going to show you all the important phases in the Spring lifecycle. I'm talking about the building the context. And from the other hand, I want to show you the most powerful debugger and the new features which already come with the last version. You don't need anymore to download. This is a separate plugin, so you can just download the IntelliJ 2026.1 and the debugger is already there. A couple of words about myself. I started working with Java since 2001 and about 20 years I'm working with Spring, and before Spring was written I tried to do something by myself, very similar framework. So if you would like this talk and you're interested in more content like this, please join my Telegram channel or find me in LinkedIn or Twitter, X, whatever you call it. In order to debug something and to explain you all Spring mechanisms, I decided not to take some boring project and spend a lot of time in order to explain its domain. So it will be a lot of different puzzlers, but you can easily match it to the real project, what happened in your life. And one of my purposes in this talk is to take you from zone of Spring users to Spring experts. Okay, so let's start from the first puzzle. This is about add value annotation. So we have a property called Terminator main mission. I'll show you in the code in a couple of minutes. And maybe this property configured in several different sources. It exists in the command line arguments and in application production properties and in application properties, and it also can come from environment variable. And the question, what will be the value? So in order to understand it better, let's switch to the project. So as I said, every time I will run some puzzler, it will be just the name of the package I want to scan. IntelliJ easily can show you that in this particular package, it's only one bin, which is configuration, or the configuration is also component. So we have only one bin, which is Skynet config, and this Skynet config injects the value, which is open Pandora box. But if we'll click on that, IntelliJ will show you that it's just his wild guess. because this property declared in several different application properties here, but all of them are non-active profiles. If we will open the application.properties, we will see the value open Pandora box. This is what IntelliJ tried to guess. But we have also Spring profiles active, which is prod, and we have application prod properties, and here we have the different value for the Terminator main mission. And if we'll look on my main, here we go. So Spring application.run actually takes some configuration from us. Usually we use some Java class, and it creates a context. So actually, if you're not too much familiar with Spring, in a couple of words, the Java is an instrument for declaring the behavior, and we write in the classes and methods. But Java doesn't come with any mechanism which can manage the objects which already were created. So Spring, this kind of object and this kind of mechanism and framework. So the first thing Spring should do is to create a context, and the context is a world for all the objects which will be managed by Spring, and they called Spring beans. But even before Spring starts building the context, it takes different property sources and build an object which called environment, and any additional objects which will be managed by Springs, I mean Spring beans, will be able to use that value annotation in order to inject the value which will come from environment. Okay, so here we go, and we see that when I'm running the Spring application and creating the context, I'm not only providing the configuration class, but I also provide the Terminator main mission with another value, which is save and release all hostages, very actual for today. Let's go back to the question. We have 4 different options. So maybe from command line argument, save and release all hostages will be injected, or maybe it will come from application prod properties because this profile is active, or maybe it will come from application properties like exactly IntelliJ guessed, or maybe it will come from environment variable I didn't show you, but trust me, I have environment variables and I have the same declaration of Terminator main mission. So what will be the Terminator main mission? You can stop for a second and think about it, and in a second I will open the correct answer. So the correct answer should be save and release all hostages, because the command line arguments is most important for Spring. You can ask your ChatGPT and he will point you to exact place in the documentation where Spring says we are taking a lot of different properties from different places, and the most important one, it will override the others, will come from command line. The next one, the environment variables. The next one is active profile, and only the last one from this list is application properties. But you can add, and I'll show you a little bit later, additional mechanism which will load additional properties from additional sources, including your custom sources. Okay, so now let's try to launch and see if the correct answer, like we thought, is save and release all hostages. So I'm running my application. Finally, I will close the context, but before that, we will print out here in post-construct method Terminator main mission, and we can see that Terminator main mission is Sarah Connor. I'm not surprised actually. It's always happens with Terminators. No matter what we're trying to program them, they think that the Sarah Connor is the main mission, no matter to save her life, to kill her, no matter, but Sarah Connor. Okay, so now in order to understand what actually happened here, I'm not going to take the credit from the correct answer, because the correct answer was A. It's still A in my opinion, and that's what will happen to any expert which will come to the project. It's not only enough to know the framework, how does it work, but it can be additional mechanism inside the project, and how can we find them out? Where should we click in order to find additional property source which was more important for Spring, and Sarah Connor was there. Okay, so what should we click? We will click the debug button. And actually it even doesn't matter when where will I stop. So let's click the debug and let's see what's going on inside the context. So first of all, I want to show you that here you can type any bean, but about the beans we will talk a little bit later. Now we're talking about the environment, so you can change here to the Spring properties, and you can easily type any property you have. For example, let's see if I have server port. I have server address. Okay, so I have any autocomplete for the property which actually comes with my Spring Boot application. If I'll type Terminator main mission, we will be able to find out that the real value is really Sarah Connor. So, and in order to understand where it came from, by the way, can you see that all non-active property files are disabled here? Okay, and IntelliJ marks only the two which actually is active. And if we'll open the application.properties, we can see the real value is Sarah Connor. And if we'll open application properties, no matter that here is written save the planet, the real value will be Sarah Connor. And more than that, you can click on that, and then it will take you, wow, it's really wonderful what IntelliJ IDEA engineers did here, because somebody analyzes our code and can see that somebody put inside environment and it is first. Okay, so it will override the others. It can be last, it can be first like priority here, and some additional property source which is built here. So let's see what this code belongs to. If we'll go up, we will find out that this class called Terminator acronym environment postprocessor, this acronym of environment postprocessor, and it implements environment postprocessor. So what is it, environment postprocessor? This is very important mechanism. I can show you in my slide. And the purpose of environment postprocessor, it can be not limited number of them. By default, if you start up with simple Spring Boot application, it will be only one, I think, which will take the standard properties from standard sources like application.properties, your profile files.properties, so YAML environment variables, command line argument, custom properties, and so on and so on. But if you will, for example, start working with Spring Cloud, and you will add to your POM or build.gradle dependency to some Spring Cloud starter, and you will have some config server, and maybe some additional properties will need to come to your environment from some remote sources, from the cloud, for example. So you can write by yourself, or you can use already existing, because in each Spring module usually it will come with additional environment postprocessor in such cases, which will be able to load inside your environment additional properties. Okay, so we can see that in order to implement this interface, it's very simple. We just need to implement only one method, post-process environment, and here we have the environment object, which contains different property sources, so we can add additional property source, we can override the existing properties, and so on and so on. So it's very simple, and we can see this code will be in the GitHub, so we will be able to see the implementation of environment postprocessor in case you but actually I believe you will ask the agent to do that. So what this particular post-process environment method is doing, so it takes the property name, which is Terminator main mission, and then we try to build the acronym to take only the first letters of each word from this sentence. So the sentence was, like you said, save, it's S, and A, release are all A hostages, H, Sarah. So it's Sarah, and then it applies special value to this acronym, and we can see that in case the acronym is Sarah, so we need to change it to Sarah Connor. And that's the reason why this environment postprocessor replaced the current value with the Sarah Connor. Okay, so this is the story of the environment postprocessor. The only question is, how can we add our own environment postprocessor? How can we make them work? How can we say to the Spring, take an account, we have additional environment postprocessor, what should we do? So if I'll show you another new feature of IntelliJ. In case you don't remember the shortcuts and you don't remember the shortcut of show usages, you can type ... and then show usages. And it will remove the ... you typed because you actually didn't mention it. And we can see the only usage, and this is the declaration point of the Terminator acronym environment postprocessor inside. Let me click here and it will take us to exact place where this file is located. So imagine that you have in your ClassPass hundreds of different jars, and one of the jar contains the meta-inf directory in the resources, which contains Spring Factories file. So this file will automatically be scanned by Spring Boot application mechanism, and in case you declare, it can be not only environment postprocessors here, but in case you declare the environment postprocessor like the name of the interface against the name of your implementation, it will be automatically collected and sorted according. You can implement in addition ordered interface, and to explain that you want to be the last environment postprocessor in the list or the first one. So you have the full control about the properties. Okay, and we can start the timeline of building the Spring context. So like I said, before Spring starts the context creation, even empty context doesn't exist in this phase, but it fires event application environment prepared event, and in this phase it will collect all environment postprocessors which declared in all your different Spring Factory files across your ClassPass, and all of them will have a chance to add some additional properties into the environment object, which will be used later on in case we will want to inject some properties to our code, to our bins. Okay, now we have a second riddle for you. This is more related to the declaration of the bins. Okay, so let's see what do we have here. We have a class called AI Terminator Validator, and it implements Terminator Validator interface. It marked with that component, and trust me, and we can see the sign of IntelliJ, this class will be scanned in the Puzzlers 2 riddle. The scope of this bin is prototype, it's not singleton like it should be by default. And we can see that the same bin declaration exists in additional configuration. Okay, and again, trust me, this configuration will be scanned. So yes, the AI Terminator Validator is declared twice. If we'll think about the name, not name of the class, but the name of the bin, we cannot find out any mention in how it should be called. So maybe here it will be the name of the method, and here maybe it will be the name of the class, maybe decapitalized, which okay, we'll talk about it a little bit later. Now let's see what happens. We have some Skynet service, and we want to inject, somebody uses the field injection here, so we use autowired to the Terminator Validator. Okay, so in case we have two, we will have a problem. And now we can see the Skynet constructor where I try to take the class of injected Terminator Validator and to print out its simple name. So what will be the answer, guys? What do you think? And actually, it's not a real question. I'm just kidding. I'm just checking your attention. Please look what's going on. If we, for some reason, by the way, in the end of this talk it will be a riddle, and the solution will be related to the field injection. But in most of the cases, we don't like field injection. We prefer constructor injection. And if you love that IntelliJ will point out and you can press this button to show what will be the injected candidate, you will see the same option to press the same button in case you will use constructor injection near the constructor. And in case you the Lombok follower and you prefer to use some require argument constructor notation which will hide the constructor, IntelliJ still will point, and I'll show you it later, remind me, above the field it will be a sign, you will be able to click it and you will see the same candidate. So there is no reason from the point of view of it's convenient for the code reading to use field injection anymore. But in case we use field injection, we need to understand that in the constructor phase, the Skynet object is not created yet. How field injection is working? Spring is using by default reflection, and it scans the class, scans the fields marked with annotation not wired, but he can do it only after the object was created. And object was created goes together with the constructor works. So when constructor works, we don't have any terminator validator and we have no pointer exception. So let's not disappoint our terminator with not pointer, and let's change our code to do it with constructor injection. Now we have the final terminator validator field, and we can see, actually I can show you in the code. Let's change the application to Puzzler2. Now we can click to see what will be scanned. You can see a lot of classes here, and we have the Skynet, and here we have the injection inside constructor, and if I'm clicking on that, we can see a lot of different options is here. But if I'll open them one by one, you will see that each one of these classes, no matter that it's marked with component annotation and it is implementation of terminator validator, so it can be a candidate, but and it's even has the primary annotation, but it marked with condition on property, and I'm telling you that this property doesn't exist at all, not only having value true, it doesn't exist. And the same, by the way, we can stop the debug because now we will need to run it with different package. And if you'll see the next implementation of the terminators, for example this one, we can see that it belongs to some not existing profile. Okay, so all of these classes marked with conditional false. So the only ones which playing this game you can see inside these answers. So I'll tell you that only these two declarations are not marked with any wrong conditions. Okay, so let's go back to the question. We have two declarations of the same bean from the same class. We don't understand what's going on with the name of this bean because it didn't mentioned anywhere. And what is correct answer? Okay, I hope you already answered that because I'm going to go through the answers and then I'll show you the correct one. So the answer A says bin definition of a write exception. What does it mean? It means, and actually this exception should happen each time when we have two different declarations of the same bin with the same ID or with the same name, whatever you call it. For example, in case you have two classes in different packages marked with add component notation, the exception will happen and it will be bin definition override exception, because if you will not use add component notation and you will not provide the value of the name of the bin will be the name of the class decapitalized. And if you have two classes with the same name in different packages, it will be two bins with the two names which are the same, and it is prohibited. But in case you declare bin in your Java configuration, it will override the bin which declared with add component notation. So it can be different, and that's exactly the question, what's going on here? So in case we have two names which are the same and this is prohibited behavior, we should receive answer number A. In case it will be two different names for some reason, we will have two different beans and it will be answer number B, no unique bean definition exception, because we cannot understand which bean should be injected because we have two candidates. Or maybe it will be AI terminator validator which is singleton. Okay, maybe the configuration of Java config is stronger. Or maybe it will be the prototype, the same AI terminator validator, but which will come from the add component notation. Okay, so the answer, like maybe you think, should be the A, because it's AI terminator validator, name of the bean which used twice, but actually no. There is one exception. As I said, if the class marked with add component annotation and Spring scans this class and you not provide the name, it will give the name which is decapitalized first letter of the name of the class. But in case there is more than one capital letter in the beginning of the name of the class, it will think that it kind of abbreviation and the mechanism will not touch it. So the name of the bean which marked with add component annotation on the left side of the screen is AI terminator validator, which is two uppercases, all uppercase, I mean AIT. And here it will be AIT with A decapitalized because it's the name of the method. Here we have another convention. It will be the name of the method always if you will not provide the name. So actually we have two beans with two different names and we should have no unique bean definition exception. But let's launch and test it. Now I'm running the same, but we changed the name of the package to be scanned. And now we can see, exception didn't happen, by the way. Sarah Connor again, and Skynet initialized with I need your closest terminator validator. How can it be? How this, we have two options and all of them are wrong. Okay, so let's try to find out this class. If I'll open it, I can see its component, but we have some property which I said that it doesn't exist. Okay, how can we check it? How can we check and should we do it? Okay, Terminator really love when the Terminator validator I need your closes is the first one, is the most important one, is the primary one. Okay, so where should we click in order to understand why the I need your closes validator became in this became to our Skynet came, I mean. Let's run in debug again. And we will stop at the same point. By the way, one of the most important things, all the features I was showing you in the debug will start working after context already refreshed. So after context built, if you debugging some post-construct method or some constructor method, and this is part of the bin creation and bin creation part of the context creation, you will not be allowed to see all the things I'm showing you. So, but I'm debugging my business logic, so the context already created. It's not the initialization phase. So what can I do? First of all, I can show you, if I switch to Spring properties, that we don't have any property. Again, if I'll go back to I need your clause, I see Terminator model, I need your clauses enabled, so it's not enabled. The only property related to the Terminator is the Terminator main mission, and it is Sarah Connor. Okay, so what can we do in order to understand? Let's switch back to the Java view, and we can type the name of the bin we are interested to analyze. So we can type Skynet. Any bin is available here, including the infrastructure bins and your business bins. Everything is here. So if we go to Skynet and we will see the result of the Skynet, we can see the definition. And this definition is actually the bin definition. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the bin definitions. So we have a lot of different ways how we can declare the bins for Spring to manage. The most popular way, I think, for us is just add component or add service annotation about our classes. But sometimes we declare bin not from our class, and we cannot change the sources of another class, so we can use add bin annotation and declare some factory method. Maybe we still use some ancient legacy XML declarations which came from legacy projects. We have additional ways to declare bins dynamically, and I'll show you it a little bit later. So we have a lot of mechanism which scans our project in different ways, and they create the objects which called bin definitions. It's not bins already, it's the bin definitions which explain how the bin should be created. In case of add component annotation, the information about how to create this bin will be the name of the class, and the constructor will be used. In case add bin annotation was used, you can see that inside bin definition will be information about the factory method which should be called, and this method will create the first the bin, which not configured till the end, but the something to start with. Okay, so this is a story about the bin definitions. By the way, additional information which is contained inside bin definition can be if this bin is lazy or not lazy, if it's prototype or singleton, if it contains some init method or destroy method, ordering, qualifiers. Okay, so there is a lot of important information, and you can see that the JetBrains developers already did it for us. We can just type any bin here, or you can use, if you would like, evaluate expression and type the name of the bin here. So the same Skynet, I can find the definition here, and I can see the same information. I can see that this bin is, the type of the bin is scanned because it was marked with add component. And I can see the class name of this bin, and I can see that the scope of this bin, and I can click navigate, and I can see where this bin was declared. And in case I want to find out about the terminator validator which was injected here, you even don't need to type anything. You can just click. You can see some strange XML validator here, and if you will click on it, you can find the definition of that, and you can see it defined type is XML. It was defined in XML, and it's primary. All this information is here provided by IntelliJ. You can click navigate, and you will find out some strange XML which for some reason, but believe me, in the real project what actually happens, and this maybe will not your agent will not be able to find or understand it because he's not looking at the side of this project maybe, and the debugger is going to help us. Okay, so by the way, the same behavior here. We can see that if we'll open up the puzzles services, puzzle 2, we can see that all classes which are disabled because their profile was wrong, or because the condition was wrong, all of them are marked out. Okay, so now after we understood why what actually happens, by the way, I can show you that we really have the free implementation. Okay, we have this XML validator, we can find it here. The same information. We can find the AI terminator validator, which uppercase, okay, which was declared with add component annotation, and we can find that we have this one, the small one, okay, which was declared in Java config. So I think that's enough about the bin declarations, and we can go on to the next puzzler. In order to summarize everything in the timeline, so we can see that the first phase is the preparing the environment and pushing there different properties from property sources. And the next phase is to find in all configurations and all bin declarations and building the bin definitions. The next step, even before the next step, it's the next puzzler. Let's try to think if we can. We said that Spring manages objects for us, so maybe it can help us with some design patterns out of the box. For example, one of the most popular design patterns is chain of responsibility. I love that. I can, for example, why should we use only one validator? Let's stop it and let's change my Skynet class. So let me comment this out. So I'm not going to work with only one terminator validator. We already have three of them. And here we will uncomment. Let's see, what do I have here? I have the list of terminators, and I'm using the constructor injection, so I can click and see that a lot of options can be injected here, but as we know, part of them are disabled. And we will print out all the name, the size, the number of the size, and the name of each validator class, get simple name as well. Okay, so I want to see what will come here. So here is the puzzler. I'm trying to understand if Spring is able to build the list by itself, and actually how Spring does it. So let's see. I have the bin, which is declaration of the list of terminator validators. So I declare some bin of list by myself, and I fill it with object I create by myself. By the way, I can inject them via method here and put them inside as Spring bins as well, but it's my decision. This is my list. In addition, I have two separate bins, which are not lists, but terminator validators. It's T800 and some AI terminator validator. Okay, two different bins. And in my Skynet, like I did a minute ago in my code, I'm just trying to inject via constructor the list of terminator validators. So my question is, what will be the content of this list? Now you can put pause, and I'll count to 1, 2, 3, and let's see the correct answer. And the correct answer is that Spring totally ignores the list you created by yourself, because you need to use Spring differently. You need to use the Spring in order it will manage the list for you, and it will be Spring bins. So Spring will find out all bins which will match to the generic type of your list. In case you use @ordered annotation, or you implement ordered interface and you provide your ordering that way, it will use it in order to sort in the correct way according to your order. Okay, so Terminator are really happy that we wrong again. And let me show out another thing which is introduced by Spring 7. Since Spring 7, we can dynamically register not only bins, but together with the bin definitions, which can, for example, contain an ordering. Let me give you an example from the real life. It's very popular in the last period of time to create some Spring AI application. If you're a Java developer and you love Spring and you love AI and you understand that AI is the future, so maybe you already did some pet projects with Spring AI. So in Spring AI, you have the chain of responsibility, by the way. It's exactly the chain of different advisors, which can enrich the information which goes to LLM or goes from LLM. And maybe the implementation should be different for different clients, and we have some dynamic configuration which contains the information about additional advisors which should be part of your bins in your context. And now we can easily implement that, and let me show you how it can be done with an example of terminators. So I have some class which called dynamic terminator validator, and I didn't mark it with anything, as you can see. And now I have some JSON file. Think about some external configuration, and I can read it in my Bootstrap from some remote service, for example. And it says We need to add, in addition to 3 validators we already have, we need additional list of validators. Here is only one, but it can be several. And I provide, this is my own this is my own standards, okay? But it's pretty simple to the bin definition. So I have the bin class name, I have the class name, I have the ordering, and I have it's lazy, not lazy, I have the scope, and I have the description for each one of them. And now I want to show you some mechanism. By the way, if you, it's in the same place. You see, this is the import resource I used in order to take in account the XML validator. Okay, and that's the reason why its primary won the other two. And here I have additional one, which meanwhile is commented out, which called Terminator Validator Registrar. So since Spring 7, you can implement interface. You see, it's a new interface bin registrar since Spring 7, which gives you an opportunity to register. You see, you have the register object here, and by using this register, you can add additional bin definitions, and you can calculate them on runtime. To calculate their ordering, to say from which classes they should be created, and they will be created by all the chain. I'll show you later in our timeline. Okay, so let me show you how this method was implemented and how the registry can be used. So first of all, I'm loading the configuration from my config file, which is this file. Okay, so it's just simple reading the JSON. It's not interesting code. You see, I'm using object mappers, so I'm just reading the value to this input stream. And then I'm converting it to my DTO object, which actually the pretty simple, as I said, to the bin definitions. It's called validator definition. And here the information which will come from the JSON will be contained: bin name, class name, order, lazy, scope, that's all. And after that, for each one of the validators I have, I'm running this logic, register validator. So register validator, let me expand it a little bit. You see, from the validator, I can take the name of the class, and then I can use the register bin method. Actually, it's overloading here. We can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6 different implementations. So I'm using the most interesting one. I'm providing the name of the bin by myself. Okay, I can take actually the name of the class decapitalized exactly like they do, but in my convention, somebody pass it to me in the JSON. Then here is the validator class I took from the class name. So I'm just loaded the class. And the last parameter here is my lambda, which actually provides me an opportunity to fill the spec object. And spec object contains information about the bin definition. So via spec, I can say what should be the ordering of this bin. I can say if it's lazy or not lazy. I can say if it's primary or not primary, and so on and so on. The only thing you cannot, for some reason, provide yet is information about the qualifiers. It's not limitation of IntelliJ, it's not related to IntelliJ, it's some limitation of this spec object, which is provided by Spring 7. So I hope in the next version it will be fixed. Now, after we commented out this declaration, and now this terminator, you see, it's very simple. In order to turn on this mechanism of your custom registrar, you just use that import notation. Exactly like in case you want to import some additional configuration, you use that import notation, so we can use it for registrars as well. And now if we will run and we will see what will be injected in the list, I can again look for the Skynet object and result and definition, and I can see, let's navigate to it, and here we can see, okay, the XML validator, and where is the rest? Again, I'm sorry, it's here. Okay, we can see four bins which were injected here, and one of them is dynamic terminator validator. And if we will try to see if IntelliJ knows about the dynamic register bins, we can find out that inside the definition it's written definition type programmatic. Okay, and the order is 16 and it's lazy. So all the information we saw, which was written in my JSON, was demonstrated by IntelliJ. So IntelliJ knows about the last updates of the Spring, and even a Spring bin which declares dynamically. Still, you can find out all needed information and the information about the class. Okay, now I think we can go to the next puzzler. Let's stop it for a moment. Okay, before next puzzle, I want to show you some additional design patterns, maybe ask you additional question. So I never loved switch, actually. Switch was anti-pattern for me in Java, and no matter that now it's look much better and you cannot forget the break, but still I think in most of the cases it's anti-pattern. For example, here we can see that we have some handle method which should run a different task on different terminator object according to the command. So it has a lot of different cases. So each additional case, it's not only case, it's additional injection. So it's against open-close principle. I need to change my code every time, and even in two places, not only cases but auto-wired. Okay, so what can happen here? Do you think it will work? Because again, another option how you can avoid the switch is use a kind of hash map, right? So I have a map in case it will be filled automatically, even fine, and against the key it will be the needed implementation. So I just can, without changing the code, just always take from my map the needed implementation and just invoke its handle method. So what do you think will happen in case we'll try to use injection, no matter field injection, constructor injection, in case we have a map? So it will work, guys, in case the string here is provided. So I mean it should be string in your map declaration, because each string will be the name of the bin. So in case the name of the bin is exactly T800 or T900, and we can use it as a key inside our map, I actually don't love to use the name of the bins like some business values, but it's one of the options. Another option, you just can use list injection of the list, and then iterate through the list and you know, to put it in some map according to some enum. Or you can use, maybe this is the question for you, what will happen here? So since Java 8 we can use default methods, and maybe we can put the annotations which is handled by Spring in our interfaces above the default methods. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to implement some registry design pattern. I don't want that somebody will open this kind of operation center class each time when new terminator arrives. Okay, I want that each terminator implementation automatically will register this bin to this map. So how can I do that? I'm making the public method in my Skynet operation center, which called register terminator, and each one takes two parameters: the name of the terminator, because I need to put it in the map, and the terminator itself. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying that nobody will forget to do that, and nobody need to copy paste the code. Each one will, each bin which class implements terminator interface automatically will have such wonderful register myself method, and this method should work because it marked with post construct, and because it marked with auto-wired, maybe the Skynet operation center will be injected and I will be able to register myself. The only thing I need to do is just to implement the name method. So each terminator implementation will be needed to implement the name method, and that's all. The registration will happen automatically. So what will happen here? 1, you can put it on pause. 2, and the correct answer is post construct will not work because you need to read the documentation, because post construct should mark only method which without any parameters. Okay, but actually we don't need to do that. Attwire is enough. Spring scans the attwire annotation not only in the classes and not only in the parent classes, but also in interfaces in case it has default implementation. So because of that, attwire will work for this method like kind of setter. So in case you have field marked with attwire, this field will be injected. In case you have setter marked with attwire, but actually Spring doesn't care how this method name starts. It can call differently. Register myself as a good name. What is important that it's marked by attwire. So each time when any bin which class implements terminator interface will be configured, some mechanism, I'll show you it later, will not ignore the attwire above the method and will run it in some configuration phase of this bin. So this bin will have a chance to register itself to the Skynet Operation Center. So everything will work. You can use this design pattern. Okay, the next riddle is the war of the prototype and singletons. So actually, from the one hand, you can say who uses prototypes, but again, we are talking about corner cases. It's not too many examples of prototype usages in the code, and because of that, AI agents can make mistakes here. So we need to understand about it. From the other hand, everything I'm talking about prototype is relevant for the scope session and scope request and any other scope except from the singleton. So it's a for singleton from the others. So singleton is a whiskey, but the prototype you will laugh, but actually after in the same day when I provided this talk in Java 1, I was in some beer factory and I saw this. Okay, so it was prototype Pilsner beer. Okay, so let's go back. Prototype is Terminator and singleton is Terminator. This one is T1000 because it was only one, and the Schwarzenegger was in each movie, so it's prototype. It's a lot of them. Now I have two declarations. One of them is T1000, which is singleton, and it has post construct method, and it say actually T1000 didn't spoke a lot. So have you seen this boy? I think was the only phrase he said. And in destroy method he says some bye bye Teletubbies or something like that. And T800, which is Schwarzenegger, says I need your closes when it appears. So it's post construct method. And when it destroyed, the pre-destroy method will say I'll be back maybe. So my question is very simple. What will happen when I'll run let's change the package to package free, Java 1 demo application. Now package free, we can see what will be scanned, T800, and inside Skynet config we have the declaration of T1000. Okay, so both of these bins will be declared, and T1000 looks like that. It's singleton and it has post construct. So exactly, this is a summarization information. It's a little bit differently declared, but trust me, it's not related to the problem I want to show you. So what is the correct answer? All four methods will work because the context is started and the context is closed in the end, so all of them will work. Or maybe only singleton methods will work, or maybe the problem will be that with the pre-destroy method, maybe it will work only for the prototype, or maybe it will work only for the singleton. What is the correct answer? 1, 2, 3. Yes, pre-destroy will work only for singleton. If you remember, the Terminator asked from Sarah Connor to destroy it because he said, I cannot destroy myself. So it's not the reason why destroy method will not work for the Terminator. The reason is because nobody cares. Let me explain. when the Spring context is created, all singletons are part of the context. They live inside, no matter if they used or not. Maybe they have some scheduled method, maybe they have some additional reasons, but in case they were created, they live inside the context. And when the context will be closed, it will iterate. By the way, only one thread will be used. It may be a problem in case you have a long logic which takes time. Maybe you need to parallelize it by yourself, because even async will not help you. So each method of singleton will work in the moment when the context will be closed, one by one. But in case Spring creates some prototype object or session or some other, he will not put it inside the context. It will be injected where you need it to be injected, but nobody knows when this prototype will die. Maybe garbage collector already took it. Because of that, nobody will help you to invoke these methods, and you cannot fix it. You cannot fix it because it's the correct behavior. What you can do, and I'm wondering why Spring didn't do it yet, some warning or maybe exception each time when we have some problem in this declaration. But for me, it's a chance to talk about some additional mechanism which called bin factory postprocessors, because now in what phase we are. We already collected information about the bin definitions, remember, right? We declared several bins. One of the bins was declared dynamically, one of the bins was declared via XML, several bins was declared with that component, no matter. We have several bins, the bin definitions. And after all bin definitions were collected, I want to check, maybe it contains some prohibited combinations. In my case, I don't want to see prototype together with predestroy. Okay, so it seems like bin factory postprocessors exactly for that. It gives you an option to modify application context internal bin factory, because all bin definitions inside bin factory, so all bin definitions will have been loaded, but no bins will have been instantiated yet. This allows for overriding or adding properties, even eager initializing meanings, or check if everything is valid and throw an exception. So post-process bin factory, this is the only method I need to implement, and here I have an access to my bin factory. Let me show you how the implementation can look like. No, it's not that one. Puzzler number 3. So bin factory post-processor. In case I will comment it in. So this is the only method I need to implement, post-process bin factory. And what can I do? I can take the names of all bin definitions. Actually, it's the same which are name of the bins. And then I can iterate through them, and I can ask my bin factory to get bin definition. I cannot ask for the bin because it will instantiate the process which should not be instantiated yet. Now we are not in the phase of the bin creations. We are in the phase before bin creations, but after bin definitions already exists. So we can take each one of the bin definitions, and then we can look on that, and we can see, we can change the scope, we can ask if it's primary, we can ask what the scope, or we can even ask if it's prototype or lazy or something like that. But before using this mechanism, let me give you another riddle. So just to summarize the timeline, again, we have the environment post-processors which fill our environment. The next step is to collect the bin definitions. The next step is to iterate through them and maybe correct them, maybe fix them, maybe check them. And then the question for me, and we will understand what is the problem with bin factory post-processor. So I have a bin declared in some Java config, which is singleton. Actually, it's a redundant default. maybe just to frustrate you. Do you know, by the way, what the abbreviation? WTF, right? You know it. It's Wolfgang Theophilus Fortran, and not what you thought. So what's the correct answer? What information is missing in this bin definition which declared that way? So maybe information about the qualifier, maybe the bin class name, maybe the bin name, maybe everything will be. You want to say that Wolfgang Theophilus Fortran did not exist? And yes, you're right, it didn't exist. But what is the correct answer to that question? So maybe we will think that it's qualifier because I'm not mentioning any qualifier, but there is such a thing which called default qualifier, and each bin has default qualifier, which is the name of the bin by default. So it's unique qualifier. So qualifier exists. So what is the answer? 1, 2, the bin class name. And it seems very strange, right? Because we can see that it's string and the method returns string, but Java has polymorphism, right? In this case it's string, but I can declare a public object and I can return something different, and before you will run my code you will never know what I will return because I can do some random inside my method, and if it's Eden I will return a string, and otherwise I will return an integer, and my method will return an object, so you can never know. So this information cannot be presented in such bin definitions which declared via Java config. And let me show you that when I'm debugging. So please pay attention. I think I have only 2 bins here. I don't have too much. Yeah, I have T800. This one, these bins which are scanned, but I have a little bit more bins because inside this kind of config I have another bin which has declaration with destroy method to string. By the way, let's see if we will find out the destroy method inside the bin definition. So what can you do? Again, use IntelliJ, please. Do not hesitate. Right, let's try to find out what do we have inside T800, which was declared with that component annotation. So if we'll look at this bin definition, we can see its prototype. We can see this bin was scanned because it marked with that component. We can see it is injected to Skynet Central, and everything is fine, right? With that bin. Yeah. But if we'll try to look on the bin T1000, we will find out that it was created with factory method, and the bin class name is null, and in case bin class name is null, we cannot extract any additional information about, for example, predestroy notation, because predestroy, let's see, what about predestroy, by the way? Destroy method is to string. So this bin, let's see, the T1000, right? It's T1000. This bin T1000 was not declared as normal bin with that component. It was in Java config with that bin. We cannot see the post construct annotation. We cannot see the predestroy annotation, but we can find the declaration which was inside at bin annotation. So this toString, which is one of its predestroy method, exists, but this one should be another one, but it doesn't exist. Actually it is, and it will be invoked because it's singleton, and let me show you that it really will be invoked. You see, bye Teletubbies is the predestroy method of the T1000, but we don't see I'll be back maybe. We see only have you see this boy with a post construct of T1000 and a post construct of T1 of Schwarzenegger. That's all. This is the validators inside. They did something, no matter. Okay, so we can see that information inside bin definition is not enough. Not all the information will be presented, and because of that we cannot trust the bin definition mechanism. Actually, it's kind of legacy mechanism because everything started from XML, and inside the XML bins you always wrote the name of the class, so it always was there, and we always was able to scan the classes because we knew the names. But since we have Spring 3 and we have the Java config bins, now this information not always exists and we cannot trust it. So what we need to go with our timeline to the next mechanism. Maybe we will be able to do it later on. So the next phase, after all bin definition was collected and fixed by bin factory post-processor if needed, the bin factory starts invoking the constructors, so invoking the factory methods and creating the bins. And this is step number 4. All bins will be released from the factory, but they not configured yet. They may be partly configured according to the information we have inside the bin definition, as you saw, but none of that are there. So who is responsible for the rest, for the annotation? Here we let's meet the new mechanism, the most popular one, I think, it's bin post-processors. Bin post-processors have two methods. One of them called post-process before initialization, and the second one called post-process after initialization. So let me concentrate, meanwhile, only on the first one. Forget about the second one. Let's think that bin post-processor has only one method. What should they do? So I tried to draw it as I could with AI. So we can see in my example it 3 bin post-processor. In the real life it at least 6, but if you connect additional starters it will be tens of bin post-processors. So for example, this bin post-processor is responsible for the auto-wired annotation. And he scans the setter methods, he scans the tails, and he injects the needed values. Another one, this one, he's drawing the faces, so maybe he's injecting some additional custom values according to your custom annotations. And this bin post-processor is doing nothing. Actually, doing nothing means, like you see by the signature of the bins, is just to return the bin back without injecting something into it. Because this one doing something in the second phase, but we will talk about it a little bit later. Okay, so after now we coming closer to explanation why what the difference between the two methods of the bin post-processor. So each method of each bin post-processor, which will be invoked on each bin twice. The first method will be invoked once and the second one will be invoked once. So it's two chances for each bin post-processor to modify the bin. In the first phase, in the first method, the contract says you should not, no matter that you can, because you saw the signature, you need to return the object back, but you need to return the same one. And in this phase, you just can inject something. You can modify this current object, but you will not replace it with some other object. After each bin post-processor had a chance to do what he needed to do in his first method, then the bin come to the next phase, phase number 6, and somebody invoke its init method. Why I say somebody? Because it depends how this init method was declared. In case it exists inside the bin definition, the factory will invoke it, or some factory mechanism. But in case you used post-construct notation, and that's what usually we do in case we need some additional initiation logic after everything was configured inside the bin. We use post-construct notation. So who is responsible for that? What mechanism? And you know it, it's another bin post-processor. Why I think it's funny? Because there is a contract which says it guarantees for each bin post-processor that the first method will be invoked before init And the second method will be invoked after init. It's exactly imagine the name of these methods. So how can it be that the one who is responsible for invoking the init method is the bin post processor by itself? It reminds me the picture like this. And actually, because of that, Spring had a problem with the ordering, but again, it's a legacy story and nobody will change it now. But if you want to see, I can show you how to wire the notation bin post processor. And this one, his ordering is the lowest -2, because the injection should work before the invocation of init method, in case both of them are bin post processor and different bin post processors. Another one called common annotation bin post processor. Even by its name you can understand that it's very legacy class. It's not exactly like single responsibility should be. Common annotation, so it's responsible for 3 annotations. One of them is pre-destroy, and one of them is post-construct, and its ordering declared in different way. It's inside constructor, the lowest precedence -3. Okay, so something like that. So in case we want to throw an exception, each time we have this prohibited combination, we can do it inside the bin post processor. So let me show you. In case I will comment it in. Okay, so as you see, I'm implementing only the one method, because since Java 8 they provided the default implementations for both of them, which do nothing. In order you will be able to choose which one you want to override without making meaningless overriding in the second one. So what do I have here? First of all, I can inject to my bin post processor any additional Spring mechanism. For example, I want to inject the same configurable listable bin factory. Wow, I said it. Which I got here. Remember, configurable listable bin factory. So I have the same option to take the bin definition if I need. And actually, I use it in order to take the bin definition by its name. You see, I have the name of the bin I'm configuring now. So actually I have 2 parameters in the method I need to override. The bin I'm configuring now and its name. So if I need some additional information, I can use its name and to take the bin definition, and then I'm asking is it prototype or not, because this information will always present in bin definition. And then I'm use some reflection stuff to scan through the declared methods. Actually, I need to scan even more methods, maybe with the parent and the interfaces. But I'm lazy, so I'm just scanning the current method of this class, and I'm trying to find if I have any method match pre-destroy, marked with pre-destroy notation. In case I do, I'm throwing an exception. So if I rerun my application again, it should fail, because now this component, you see it failed, and it says pre-destroy notation found on the prototype. Now I will comment it out and I will run it again. Now this mechanism will not fail the context and everything is working, you see. So it's very simple. In case you want to enrich the initiation logic of your bins, it's very simple. You just need to write some class which implements bin post processor. Soon I'll explain why you have the second method. You can implement the first method and you have access to the bin. In case it's not enough, you can have the bin name and take some additional information from the bin definition. And the only thing you need to do in order that your bin post processor will start working, mark it as a component or declare it in your Java config or in your starter. No matter how, you just need to declare bin from your bin post processor and it will automatically start working together with them. By the way, you can use the ordered annotation as well and so on. Okay. Now, this is the last puzzler, but now if you're tired, stop me, take a deep breath, go somewhere, and this is the most interesting one. And this is the most powerful debugger features I will show you now. So I have some, actually it will be even different project, let me show you. Terminator transaction application. And what I'm going to do now, let me stop the previous one. It's already stopped, and let me run this one. So you can see here I have the text file. It's kind of CSV file with 3 columns: text, speaker, and spokennet. And this is a different phrases of Terminator. Maybe he heard some phrases, maybe he said some phrases. So and the idea of all these classes, actually it's not too much of them. We have the phrase controller, and this is how it's look like. So if I'm clicking the clear database, actually it's already cleared. I'm clearing the database. If I'm clicking the field data, you will see how this file, this one, was loaded into my database, and after that we were redirected to the page where I can see the content of my database. Okay, so it's pushing into the database. Let me show you how. So when I click the fill button, we loaded the data, and load the data just take load from CSV, and here we go, and here it is. This file you already saw, Terminator phrases. No, here, see, you can click on that, it's clickable. And after the data is loaded, and it is saved with my Terminator token module save all phrases, you see. So after I loaded the phrases from my CSV file, I'm just save all of them. And here, this is the riddle. So as you can see, this class Terminator token module marked with 2 annotations. So require argument constructor. Not big fan of Lombok, but sometimes I love it, and especially I love to show that no matter that this repository is final, and we don't see physically the constructor because it's hidden by this annotation, IntelliJ even here can navigate and show me that I do have some phrase repository which marked with a repository annotation, GPA repository, and that's all. Okay, so no reason, like it seems, to make field injection. Soon it will come. Another annotation I have here, Java 1 transactional service, and it actually is composition of service and transactional of Spring with some change default to timeout different, and required as a default. But no matter. Now, instead of using 2 annotations each time when I want the transactional service, I'm using Java 1 transactional service annotation, and Spring understands it perfectly. Okay, it will not ignore your annotation in case they contains the Spring annotation inside. All of the Spring mechanism knows to do that. Now, most of them. Now, what does it mean? So in case we have transactional annotation above the class, it means that each method, like save all, is marked with a transactional annotation as well, with this timeout. And inside my save all method, what I'm doing, I'm iterating through my phrases we wrote from the we took from the JSON, and I'm trying to save them one by one in stupid for, but I just want to catch an exception which can happen here. And I'm just incrementing the broken records, and I know that the only reason why it can be broken because this phrase already exists. My database configured like that you cannot save the phrase with the same content. So this is the only reason for exception. I will not show you another ones, but it will not stop the running my for because it's inside the for this catch. And finally, I return how many was broken, and in order to print it out. And my save method, here I call it a lot of times, according to the number of phrases. It has his own transactional notation with different propagation. It says it wants the new transaction here, no matter it came, about the propagation. I think it's about 6 or 7 of them required. Yeah, we can open it. Required, not supported, supports, mandatory, never. Most of them are not in use. Never says that you cannot call this code without a transaction and exception will happen. And not supported will take the code from the transaction. It will wrap it with additional try and catch in order that will not make any effect on the transaction. Default is requires, which says in case we didn't have transaction now, we need to open it. But in case we have we don't need to do nothing. And the last one is requires new, which says no matter we had transaction, we need additional transaction, the separate new transaction here. And then we just save in the phrases. That's all. Now I'm going to break something in my JSON. For example, I want to take I'll be back and exactly to put it somewhere after she'll be back. She'll be back is from Terminator 3. Okay. Now, if I'll rerun it, let's rerun in order to reload this JSON file. And now I'm gonna clear my database. And now I'm gonna press the field data again. And my question is what gonna happen. And here is the answers. So, option number A, this is exactly the same code we already saw, okay, right? We have the save all should be marked with a transactional notation because the service marked with transactional notation, and we have additional transaction here, and we have the one phrase is broken. Its number is 9, right? Because first is the name of the columns, so if it's 10, it's 9. And when I will press the field data button, what's going to happen? So all valid records will be saved and we will be able to see them in our UI. Nothing will be saved. Nothing. 0. See, all up to the first will be saved and then nothing will be saved. Or all answers are incorrect. How can it be? Maybe only after the broken record everything will be saved. What do you think? 1, 2, 3. Let's check it out. We will click field data, boom, and if we'll go back and we'll try the refresh to see what's in the database, nothing. Unfortunately, right. Now, in order to explain you what actually happened, we need to talk a little bit about the second method and the purpose of the second method in case some bin postprocessor implemented. So, as I said, both of these methods, their signature says they can return a bin instead of the bin they received. But the first method should not use that. He should return the same bin. But the second one can return something different. And let me explain you how the transactional notation is working, and let me explain you how any other magic annotations are working in Spring. So, think about the simple situation. At-wired annotation marks some field. Very simple. We need to modify the current object by putting something inside this field. It's very simple. But what if we use a transactional notation? What do we want from Spring to do? We want to open transaction each time our method is working, to close it in the end, to do the rollback in case exception happened, even if it's applicative exception in case we didn't catch it, right? So it's additional code which is hidden somewhere. So Spring do not generate the bytecode. Spring use the proxy design pattern. How does the proxy design pattern works? Think about the object which looks like that. Let me explain you the architecture of the proxy object. Inside we have the original bin, which, for example, Terminator token module, and it has transactional methods. So in some phase, this bin is created, its init method is working, but then it comes to the second method of transactional annotation bin postprocessor, the one who handles it. And he say, aha, I will not return you as is, I will return some complex object, which is called proxy. So first of all, this bin postprocessor, which will generate the new class, which by default will extend from your class. In case your class is not final, we'll talk about it a little bit later. So in case your class is not final and marked by transactional notation, the bin post processor, which is responsible for making transactional magic work, will generate the new class, which will have exactly the same methods like you. So as you can see, the proxy object for the external usage looks like the internal original bin and has exactly the same methods, for example, a and b, which takes an integer. So when somebody will call the a method of the original bin, maybe he think that he called the original bin. Let's see, who is calling the method save all? It's data loader service right here. We have the terminator token module and we call the save all. But if I'll put here the breakpoint and I will run it in the debug mode, and we will click the field data button again, and here we go, and you see the terminator token module. If you open this one, we have the injection of terminator token module. It's our class, not final, and it has save all method and it has save method. Everything is good, but IntelliJ says that this class name is not exactly terminator token module. You see, the name of the class is cglib AOP proxy dynamic advice interceptor blah blah blah. So the name is totally different. Let's ask the exact name of the class. Let's do evaluate expression and let's get class. You see, terminator to the name of the class is com.jb terminator token module $$ spring cglib. This is the name. Okay, so every time when we call a method of the object we injected to ourselves, we maybe can think that it's original object, but there is a good chance, and it's 100% chance in case you have transactional notation, that your object is proxy. So maybe we call some repo.a method, but we really call the proxy a method. Now, how this a method of proxy class implemented? The proxy object is super stupid. He knows to do nothing. The only thing he knows to do is calling the method invoke. By the way, it's the only method which is inside invocation handler. What is invocation handler? So this is architecture of the proxy object. The one who creates the proxy object, he put inside not only the original bin but the invocation handler in case of transactions. The duty of this invocation handler is to see, proxy object said method A was invoked and 0 arguments came. Invocation handler says, okay, let's see, the original method was marked with transactional notation. Yes. Okay, let's open transaction. Then let's call the original A method. Then let's close transaction. So this is how it's working. So all the transactional logic inside invocation handler, which inside the proxy object. And the problem is when method A calls to the method B, in my example here, we can see it happens directly. It doesn't call the B of the proxy object, so invocation handler doesn't know about it and cannot do the transactional magic. This is the code we saw. The save all method, when we call in the save all method, actually we call it from the this. Okay, I can show you it here, but in order to prove it, let's go run. We continue running with debug. We need to invoke the field method again. Field data. I need the breakpoint is missing here. Okay, let's put here the breakpoint. It will not fail on the first one because only the object number 9 is. Let's stop it and run it again. Something happened. Okay, now we're here. So in the debug view, you can see the information, the transaction debugging information. So we can open the transaction and we can see, okay, isolation level default, propagation required, not requires new. And if we'll ask to navigate to the source, no matter that we already see it, save all and not inside the save method. We don't see this transaction. We see only this transaction here. And again, the reason why it happens, because the one who calls the save all method, he is the one who calls it from external class, right? And then it calls, and we saw it, from the proxy object. So the proxy object goes to the invocation handler, and invocation handler opens this transaction, and then after we go inside the for to this save method, that's exactly what's happening here. The method A calls method B. The method save all calls method save directly. In order to fix this, we need to change the calling of the save method to my own proxy. And let me see how we can do that. But before that, let me explain you why nothing is saved in that case. So meanwhile, you need to understand why we have only one big transaction on the save all method. So if we'll continue going on, we can see that the size of the entity level cache, by the way, look how it's perfect. I'm loving that. We can see that inside the transaction information, do you know how the Hibernate works, how the GPA works? That actually when we have the transaction commit and flash, we just synchronizing the entity level first level cache with the database. So actually there is no objects in the database yet. Or by the way, we easily can check it. We can take the entity manager, for example, or we can take some repository, phrase repository, and let's count. Okay, so let's count. No, we have two objects inside. Okay, so they go to the database. But actually, I'm thinking no. I'm almost sure that this mechanism is working against the same first level cache because it's not flashed yet, and it will be flashed if we will not flash it manually only when the transaction will be closed. So we can see if we'll put the breakpoint here, for example, and let's run it again. We can see that the new phrase which is coming here is transient. And ID it's null because it's not saved yet. But after the save method will be invoked, it becomes managed and now it has ID. So we have everything here and we can see the status of the first level cache, and I can continue running like this, but let me show you. Let's jump to the problematic one. So I can open the debug breakpoint and let's see, it's wonderful, but we can type here the same name of any bin. So let's take the phrase repository and let's count, and let's say, for example, I want to stop when we have 8 objects. And now if we'll run, and now we can see that we have the 7 objects in the cache, and now we have the 8th one. Okay, so it's very easy to debug, and you can stop it easily, and you can access to any bin from any place, even from conditional breakpoints. Now let me show you how I'm solving that. By the way, I didn't say at the end, so why 0 will be saved. After the first invalid record will come, the transaction, by the way, maybe it's even better to show you that the transaction will be broken and it will be marked as broken. It doesn't matter that we have try and catch inside the code. If we had the problem only inside the code and database would never knew about it, it will be working differently. But in case, let me run it again. Without conditional. I want to show you that the cache will not be filled. No. Okay. Now we want to stop here and go. You see the cache. Let me open the cache. The cache is growing. Size is 3, size is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now this is the broken one. And after the broken one arrived, each next one will be ignored, even if it's okay. But in the end, what is even more important, because the transaction marked as broken because we had at least one invalid record, the data will, everything will go rolled back. And actually, nothing will be committed, nothing will be flashed, and because of that, the database will be empty. So in order to solve that, and this is the last thing I'm going to do in the code, I need to use here my own proxy. And how can I get it? So I remember the time when I need to invent some annotation like self-inject and write some bin post-processor which will support it, and then I can terminator token module my proxy like this. But since some ancient version of Spring, it's ancient for now, we can use a wire here, and you cannot do it if you will use constructor injection because it's Java limitation. You cannot inject to constructor yourself because you are not created yet. But it doesn't a problem. It's not a problem when the bin was created and it has internal reference which will point to itself. Okay, so Spring to wired mechanism can do that. The only thing you need to do is to allow it, and to allow it you need to write Spring main allow circle reference true, because if you will comment it out and now I'll run it, you will see it will fail. You see it says circular dependency. You need to allow it by making this property true, and by doing that, now let's see if we will solve the problem. And now we have the 50 additional transactions. So let's click the field data, and now we can see in the transaction view that we have two transactions. You see, we have save and save all, which is the parent transaction. You see, it's a parent transaction, and if you click navigate to source, we see that the parent transaction started from here, and this one is started from here because we are calling it from the proxy. If you don't like the solution to inject yourself to yourself, just separate it to two different classes. Never call methods marked with some transactional annotation or some other annotations, which means proxy is here from inside via this object. Never do that. So or inject proxy or just separate it. And now if we'll release this breakpoint and we'll go, we will see that everything is working, and I'll be back is saved, and she'll be back, and after she'll be back we see that I'll be back will not save the game because this one was the only broken transaction and the rollback was only for that. Now I mentioned in order to summarize the timeline, so we see the 7 important phases: building the environment, finding out and building all the bin definitions, changing the bin definitions if needed, or checking them, starting working according to the bin definition protocol, creating all the bins. Then bin post processors have a chance by their first method to do something, some injections on these bins. Then the init method is working on each bin, and then we have another set of bin post processor which can do the proxy. You see now this one is doing transactional proxy, and this one who was responsible for some custom injection and not wired are just sitting aside because their second method is not in use. And finally, after all this timeline will be ended, the fully configured bins, which at least tens of percents will be proxy, will go inside your context, and you will be able to work with them, and you will be able to take them from there. And this is how Spring build the context. So the last thing, it's kind of again additional riddle. What's wrong with IntelliJ? Because if I'm putting the final near the class which marked with transactional notation, IntelliJ says red. So what do you think? It's compilation error, or it's everything is fine and IntelliJ is correct, but just it's runtime error, or maybe it's an old screenshot and it will work differently now, or maybe it's a fake screenshot. Actually, it's a fake screenshot, but the real one was like this. This is a real one, okay? I just asked from IntelliJ to make it more nice. So actually, the right answer, 1, 2, 3, everything fine. I mean, the IntelliJ is fine. It's not compilation error, but it will be a runtime error. IntelliJ want to stop you. If you will type final here, it will say classes annotated with transactional could be implicitly subclassed and must not be final, because that's how Spring is working. He will subclass your class, the proxy class will subclass it. So it cannot be final. In case you want to do it final, there is another approach. You can implement some interface, and all your public methods you should extract to the interface, and everybody in your project should not work with your implementation, but only with an interface. And then what can happen, this is a very ancient slide, 10 years ago I explained the proxy design pattern with dynamic proxy. So if you have some interface with methods A and B, and you have your own implementation with the same methods, the proxy implementation will be generated. So in case you have final class, but you do have an interface, it will be another mechanism of Spring. It will say, okay, I will generate the proxy not with CGLib, but with dynamic proxy. So it will implement your interface with the same methods A and B, and it will be the same invocation handler. So it will be exactly like in the previous picture here, but the proxy will be according to the interface and not the subclass. That's all. But the construction will be exactly like this. Okay, guys, so I hope this talk was useful for you, and let me remind you again, if you love such a content, please join my Telegram channel, find me on LinkedIn, let's be friends. Thank you for your patience, and in case you have questions and answers, again, I have my Telegram channel, do not hesitate to write.